Hi everybody, I'm Anita from KetogenicWoman.com. Today I am going to answer hopefully all the many questions I've been getting about making the protein-sparing bread. I have just had so many, and I've tried to answer them in comments and things, but not everybody sees that, and so I thought maybe I would do a Q&A about all the pitfalls and things that happen when you make this darn bread. Okay, so let's just get started with some of these questions. But first, just in case this is the first time you've tuned into my channel and you have no idea what I'm talking about, the protein-sparing bread is a bread that was a recipe that was created by Maria Emmerich. I don't know how long ago, 10 years ago maybe, 12 years ago. And it's really a very basic bread made only of egg whites and egg white protein powder. Now, there's been a whole bunch of us on YouTube who have run with that bread and created all kinds of crazy variations and different recipes. And I think maybe it's even created a little bit of confusion about the bread because there's so many people with so many different recipes. So I'm hoping to answer some of the questions that I've been getting and see if it's easier for you to make the bread. So first of all, I want to give credit to Maria Emmerich. Every time we talk about protein-sparing bread, we are referring back to that original recipe, and I will link that below. And then as we go through the Q&A, if there's a relevant video that relates to the question that is being asked, I'll also let you know that, and that link will be below as well. So I want to start with the very first and most common question. So the most common question that I get, and even that I see in Facebook groups, is why won't my egg whites whip up? And if you've made the bread or you've watched it being made, you know that you've got to whip those whites until you have this big cloud of egg white whipped up very stiff. And some people are having trouble even getting to that point. So I'm going to just tell you all the common things that I've heard from other people. They haven't necessarily affected me, but I've heard other people who that has affected. So start with the basic thing, your bowl. Your bowl has to be completely clean, completely dry, no oil, no water, nothing. I've even heard some people say it has to be a metal bowl, but I know that isn't true because I use my glass bowl all the time. So glass or metal. I've never actually whipped up egg whites in a plastic bowl, so I'm not sure about that. But I think the most important thing about the bowl is clean and dry. No oils, no other contaminants of any kind. That would, like dish soap, like just completely spectacularly clean and dry is what you want. The humidity in your kitchen or your house, or maybe even where you live, a person who lives in, say, Florida is going to have a completely different type of air and humidity than, say, us here on the West Coast. So, or in Nevada or wherever it is you are, that can affect how your eggs whip up. So it's something to consider. We have some humid days here sometimes when we're expecting rain. I have made this bread using the exact same recipe on a day, and then on another day using the exact same recipe, and it somehow turns out different. I haven't had them not whip up. I haven't had my egg whites not whip up ever. And some people even say they can't whip them up unless they're fresh egg whites. So I've been using carton egg whites since the very beginning, and they whip up fine for me. So it has to be another reason then. And then the other thing is to add cream of tartar or not to add cream of tartar. Well, the first few times I made the bread, I could not find cream of tartar. My egg whites whipped up and the bread baked okay. So maybe that's an issue for you. Like maybe the conditions in my kitchen are just all aligned properly so that I can get away with not having the cream of tartar. I can get away with using carton egg whites. I don't know. So I think, you just have to take all the reasons and just put a check mark beside each one, that is involved, and see if you can narrow it down to why your egg whites aren't whipping up. And I guess the other thing is long. You have to let it go for a long time. They're not going to whip up fast. So when you watch us do the video of whipping up the egg whites, it might seem quick, but we're editing all that out. I saw Maria Emmerich on a video one day saying it takes 8 minutes in her stand mixer. So that's probably true. I've never timed mine, but it seems to take quite a few minutes. I do a lot of other things while it's whipping. So keep that in mind, that it's you got to stick with it till the end. That could be 8 to 10 minutes for you. So those are the most common reasons why your egg whites won't whip up. One question is, do you need a stand mixer to make the bread? No, you don't. I used this mixer for all the protein-sparing breads and buns and everything until about a week ago. So it works. The only disadvantage that I found was I could only make a half recipe at a time. So whatever protein-sparing bread recipe out there, usually they are enough for one big giant loaf or two smaller loaves. I had to cut that in half because you can see there's a height problem. That dough gets big, and so there's not a lot of room there to put 12 egg whites in a small bowl. So, but it can be done, and half a recipe was better than no recipe. Another question is fresh eggs or carton eggs. Whatever your choice is. Now, I have had some people say that they have better success with the fresh eggs. They whip up faster and fluffier and nicer. I have a preference for the carton eggs. I really don't like having to break 12 eggs. The other reason I don't like to use fresh eggs is because there's more of a chance you're going to get some yolk mixed in. You have to be really careful. Even the tiniest little bit of yolk can cause your egg whites to fail. So I prefer the carton eggs. I buy the Costco packs. I keep them in my freezer, which some people don't know you can freeze these, but you can. I keep them in my freezer. I thaw them out. I use them, and they work just fine for me. One thing is to allow them to come, measure out how much you need for a recipe and allow it to come to room temperature. So that might give you better results as well. Do you need to use allulose? This is a burning question. So the answer is no, you don't need to use allulose. I didn't use it for the first few times. You're still going to get a loaf of bread. The reason that people are using allulose is not to make the bread sweet, it's to make the bread brown. So I just want to show you this. I made this morning. I am running out of allulose. In fact, I used my last 1 tablespoon of allulose to make this loaf of bread. Now, I've seen some recipes out there that call for a 1/4 cup of allulose. You don't really need that much. This is like a half a recipe here because I used some of the batter I got for other things. So in this, I have a tablespoon of allulose, and I threw in a tablespoon of monk fruit. I thought, maybe monk fruit has browning properties. I don't think it does, but anyways, I got it brown enough. So when I used to make the bread, it was just sort of a color almost like this board here. You just didn't get that browning. If you don't care about that, then don't use the allulose. The allulose presents a special problem for Canadians. I don't know if it's the same for other people in other countries. I know the US, you can get it readily. So I now have 2 sources of allulose that I actually have orders shipping en route. One is supposed to arrive today. So I'm going to put 2 links down below. Anyone from any country can check these out, but this is of special interest to Canadians. One is Wholesome Yum. They have a whole slew of different types of sweeteners. I have ordered some brown sugar allulose from them. It's a blend, but I'm kind of interested to see what kind of effect that's going to have on some of the things I like to make. There's a couple of disadvantages with that, with ordering from there. One is you need to order $50 worth of product to get free shipping. And the other disadvantage is that wait, Teddy, I'm busy. Can't you see I'm busy? Okay, here. Excuse me, I have to throw a chicken. Go get it. The other disadvantage to ordering from there is that the prices they're listed in Canadian, so you think you're ordering, say, $50, $60 worth, but then it's converted to US, and so, people that order from other countries don't like all these conversions, I can tell you that. But other than that, the products look good. I will be testing them soon, and the prices are reasonable. And I don't mind ordering $50 worth of product to get free shipping. I mean, I'd rather order a few things and have it all at once. So there's that. The other place is called iHerb. I think I probably aren't pronouncing that right. So that one is, they have allulose, they have the egg white powder, they have all kinds of things. Other things as well you might be interested in from a keto point of view. And I paid $2.52 to have my order shipped here to Canada. However, then the disadvantage to that is, it's going to be a couple more weeks. I think it was like 3 weeks in total. I am spoiled by Amazon Prime. I'm first to admit it. I like to order stuff. It's there the next day. Unfortunately, I can't do that with allulose. So I've got these 2 coming, and if I have any negative things to say about those 2 companies, like if I run into any issues, I will let you know, because I don't want to encourage you to do something and have it not turn out. But as far as, yes, you can make a loaf of bread without allulose, or you can cut down the amount. So a tablespoon of allulose seems to do some wonders.
If you can get it.
Can you use less egg white powder? Well, not only am I out of allulose, I'm now out of egg white powder. So this is actually a burning question for a lot of people. And again, it affects Canadians because this bag, 500 grams, which is about a pound, this bag, it was $40. It's actually $42.99 when I checked Amazon this morning. Canadian, that's Canadian. So I do have some coming from iHerb, which is way cheaper than this. It's also 100% egg white powder. But again, it's going to be a couple weeks. So today, when I made this loaf of bread, I had to use a lot less than I normally do. I already use less than the original recipe. So Maria's original recipe was 12 egg whites and 1 cup of powder. So I made it exactly like that the first time, and I just, it would just catch the bat. I just thought it was so dry. It was just the driest thing ever. Now, I've heard a lot of people who have made that recipe and love it as is. So I honestly feel that the best recipe is the one that you like. A lot of people are saying, I'm very confused. There's so many different recipes out there. Yes, there is. I love tweaking. I use yeast powder, yeast flakes in my bread now. I tried xanthan gum for a while, and then I took it out. I just honestly believe that the best recipe is the one that works for you, where the texture is good, the color, flavor, everything, you're happy with it. You can add little things here and there, you can take things away, but don't forget that the original recipe had 2 things, egg whites and egg white powder. And anything else that's added is because somebody said, oh, I wonder what it would taste like if we did this. And that's what they tried. And so I do have a recipe that I'm now happy with that I use, 99% of the time. So I will link that below. And I think even Maria has now put out another version of her bread where now she adds allulose and yeast flakes and things like that. So, everybody is tweaking it, and you just make it the way you like it. So that said, because I was out of the egg white powder, I used way less, even less. I've never actually used this little before. So I put parchment paper in so that I wouldn't have to struggle getting it out of that glass thing. So I am going to cut this loaf. This loaf was made with a recipe where I used the 12 egg whites, or the substitution is about 1.5 cups of this is 12 egg whites. So I did that today. Normally I would use 2/3 of a cup of the powder, but all I had was half a cup. So I have used even less, and what I want to do now is cut this and see what I think of the texture of it. So let's see what we have here. I made this morning. It looks good. It's got kind of a hole in it, but that can happen even when you have lots of egg white powder. Okay, so I just want to try it texture-wise. Okay, it's not bad. It's not dry, of course, because that was why I was, using 2/3 of a cup instead of 1 cup of egg white powder. But it is spongier than what I like it. I think for me, 2/3 of a cup is my magic formula for myself. There's a woman I saw on Facebook who swears by, I think, 2 tablespoons. I'm pretty sure that's what she said, 2 tablespoons. I don't see how that works, but it works for her. She's happy with it. So I think that you have to try different amounts until you get it right. But I would eat this and I would use it for things. If I ran out and it was all I had, why not? So yes, the answer is a resounding yes. You can use less egg white powder. The amount is going to depend on you and your tastes. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that if you make a loaf of this bread and you just are not going to eat it because you just don't like the texture or whatever, I do other things with it. You can, like my first few were so dry, there was no way I could eat them. You can make bread pudding, French toast casserole. There's so many things. I've got a couple of recipes on YouTube where I've done just that. The French toast casserole, I don't think I have that on YouTube, but it's so easy. So you just break up the loaf into chunks, put it in a pie plate with some eggs and some heavy cream, cinnamon, brown sugar, bake it. It's a winner. So my last question that I'm going to answer today is, can you add liquid syrup or extract to your recipe? This came about because I've made a few dessert type recipes, and I had thought of doing that before, but I was always worried that adding a liquid extract or syrup or something like that would cause the egg whites to fall. So today I had a little bit of extra dough, and I thought, I'm just going to try it and see. And so here's one of the little things I made. I'm just going to pry it out. So what I did with this is I added some of this skinny syrup. I had some in my cupboard. This one is vanilla bean with MCT oil. They have like skinny syrups. They have sucralose and stuff like a lot of keto people frown on them. But this one is a keto friendly one. It doesn't have sucralose. It's sweetened with erythritol and stevia and monk fruit. So I thought, okay. So I used a couple of teaspoons after everything else was mixed up. The egg whites were whipped. I had put everything else in that I normally put in, and it was the last little bit in the bowl. I folded in 2 teaspoons of this, just to see if the egg, what would happen. And nothing fell. I have a little mini loaf here. In theory, this should taste sweet. I did add on top some cinnamon and brown sugar swerve because I thought, well, I guess if I added sweet syrup to it, I may as well make a little coffee cake out of this. And so look at the whole thing is brown. This came from the batter that had the 1 tablespoon of allulose. So we'll see what the texture is like. Yeah, its texture's really good, I think. Oops, I should have cut that from the side. Anyways, just want to taste it to see how it is. It's actually really good. Now, of course, I shouldn't have tasted it with the topping because the brown sugar swerve is making everything taste sweet. Okay, so I just want to try a piece from the bottom to see what happened with adding the syrup to it. Well, it's actually really good, and I'm going to explore this whole thing of adding some keto syrups to a loaf to see what I can come up with as far as dessert type recipes. Having the brown sugar swerve and the cinnamon on top, of course, is going to make the whole thing taste sweet, but this is actually really good even without that. I'm eating from the bottom. So the answer to that obviously is yes, you can add syrup or extracts to the loaf and it won't crush your egg whites or make them fall. So the only other thing I wanted to add was just a comment about the pans. So the silicone pans, they do tend to kind of do this, if you're trying to make it in a loaf. There's also, so that's one issue that I've seen. Although I have one silicone pan that doesn't do that, and I don't know why. So you can use a glass pan, just line it with parchment paper. That does a pretty good job. But as you saw, my parchment paper kind of did the same thing. It shrunk in. See the in here. I have heard some people say that they prefer the free-form bread where they just mound it on a pan with parchment paper. And they just shape it themselves without putting it in a pan, and then it holds its shape better. So you could do that. And the other thing where people run into trouble is with the size of the pans. So the original recipe called for the 12 egg whites and the 1 cup of powder to make 1 big loaf. And so you need a big pan for that. I very rarely make the big loaf. I like to make the smaller loaves, but not everybody likes that. So you just need to be aware that the silicone loaves are only 3 or so inches here, whereas this is a lot wider. So you can, so if you're going to make the whole recipe and you have these, you're probably going to make 2 loaves or 1 loaf and then some buns or something like that. You can fit the whole recipe in this, in a big pan. Just wanted to say that. So other than that, maybe this has stirred some other questions in your mind. Please go ahead and ask them and I will answer them in the comments below. I'm going to put in a link for Maria's original bread. And I completely forgot to say, Indigo Nili did an amazing video of allulose versus non-allulose in the bread, and she baked 2 loaves side by side. I'm going to put that below. That would be a good one to watch. So I'm going to have some relevant links below with some different recipes. I'm going to have Indigo Nili, I'm going to have Maria Emmerich, and hopefully you'll be able to get this all figured out. But don't be afraid to experiment with it. Anytime I make a new type of loaf and I think maybe it's going to fail, maybe it isn't, the worst that can happen is that it fails, tear it up into crumbs and make the French toast casserole. You won't be disappointed. I'll have to do a video for that one soon. So yeah, I mean, anytime you have questions, please ask them and I will see you on my next video.
Hi everybody, today I think I want to start again. Take 2! Well, that doesn't make sense. Hi everyone, I'm Anita from Ketogenic Woman. Then your bowl, oh, where is my bowl? I don't want to say that. What a good doggy. What else am I going to link below?